All right, welcome in everybody. It is going to be episode number 23 of the Monty and Murdy College Football Show. Monty, what's up, man? How are you, buddy?
Pretty good. Good to be back as always. Obviously, kind of slowing down episode wise because getting towards the end of the season. No surprises. Right? It's college football playoff, but we're excited nonetheless to talk about more of it. We're probably going to start weaning into the offseason stuff while still talking about the playoff, I'm sure. But Murdy will talk more about that. But good to be back.
Yeah, so, man, on this week's episode, we'll break down the it's kind of sounds weird, but it's the semifinals, the college football playoff semifinals. Seems almost familiar to us, but it's like we had a whole round of games before that. But yeah, so we'll break down Texas and Ohio State, Penn State, Notre Dame, and then we'll discuss a national championship preview. Exciting game. And so we'll dive into that. We'll give you our prediction there, and then we'll pretty much close out the show there. So just to give y'all kind of an update, me and Monty have already kind of discussed what we got planned for the off season for the show. Most what we're going to do is probably we'll pick one topic a show, kind of label it that, whether it be power rankings or pre-spring top 25s or this next one will probably just update y'all on news and stuff like that. Some of the stuff that's already been happening in the season. So yeah, we'll probably just keep it to one topic an episode, get y'all through the off season, do one a week, and go about it that way.
Sorry, the lighting.
Okay, so yeah, that's the plan for the off season. And before we get in, I'll go ahead and give the short little ad read we got. So we are a part of the SportCoin network. SportCoin is a new sports network that helps fans find sports content while helping content creators grow. If you're tired of listening to the same old voices on the big networks, break away from them and find new content just like this podcast here. If you want, you could go find all the SportCoin content creators at www.sportcoin.network. And then Monty always has a slogan that he goes with.
Go get you some sport coin.
All right, so let's go ahead, man. Let's dive in. Let's dive into these games. We'll start with Texas versus Ohio State. Really good matchup there. Man, I just got to. I want to talk about this game without trying to sound like I'm patting myself on the back too much here, right? So both these games, I ended up going 2-0 for the semifinals. One of them was a little bit closer than expected, but with this game specifically here, one thing I had noted about Quinn Ewers this year was that he had struggled in the red zone. He had struggled there all year. When he's facing a good defense, where Texas' O-line's not able to overpower him with some run game, there's going to be some red zone issues that flare up with Quinn Ewers. And this game, if you look at the final play, it's not the actual final play of the game, but what is the de facto final play of the game where Jack Sawyer comes around and gets a strip sack at Quinn Ewers and runs it back for a scoop and score. I mean, you're talking about that in the red zone. I mean, Texas had the ball second and goal, or was it first and goal at the 1? Yeah, first and goal at the 1, and it ends up ending with a Ohio State scoop and score on 4th and goal there. Which, I mean, we can debate the call, kind of with I believe it was the 2nd and goal call where they do the pitch out to the running back. It ends up getting blown up by Ohio State there for a loss of 8 yards. I just realized I went this whole time without even telling y'all what happened. Ohio State ended up winning 28-14. So, yeah, Ohio State, man, this was actually a really good game. I mean, I know the point gap is 14, right? But, I mean, Texas, you're talking about Texas going and scoring there, like I just said, first and goal at the 1. I believe, it's a few minutes left in the game. Let's see. Yeah, just over 2 minutes left in the game, and Texas is knocking on the doorstep to go make this a 21-21 ball game. Possibly looking at an overtime there, but you're also giving Will Howard and them a little bit of time there to maybe do something. But overall, really good game. But yeah, like I said, the red zone issues continued to flare up. And man, you asked me earlier in the season, or I think it was probably a couple episodes. You asked me,
Yeah.
you said you're like, "Hey, is Quinn Ewers going to be the quarterback to win Texas a national championship?" What was my answer?
You said no.
Nope. And here we are. Here we are. Monty, what do you think? Is there anything just I mean with that specific scenario or that specific breakdown that you pretty much I mean we could talk about really the rest of the game, but I mean that last 2 minute portion of this game is really the most pivotal point because I mean that's where Ohio State almost that play in general is where Ohio State won the game.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit it on the head there. Because Texas didn't play a bad game. Obviously, they were in it the entire time up until the end, and it was like you said, the kind of the defining moment of the game was the problems, the issues that they've had all season is the red zone and putting the ball in the end zone for 7 points specifically. But Quinn Ewers being one of the head guy for that. And that pitch out, yeah. I mean, that play call, I don't know. I mean, you saw the still, right? The still picture of like when they were pitching and there was that giant hole up the middle.
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, horrible play call there. But yeah, like I said, it's the defining factor of the game is the issue that they've kind of dealt with and limped through the season with, yeah. And so Quinn, he didn't play a bad game. I mean, he had a pretty good game. Like I said, they played Ohio State, who probably the best defense. Well, I guess we could confidently say the best defense in the country,
Yep.
especially in the playoff. They're giving up like 12 points a game throughout the whole season, including the playoffs, which is number one. Like it's that defense is the main reason they're in this possession of it, and we can talk about the offense and how well they've been playing in the playoff, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I just think that ending is kind of very on brand for really, I mean, both how Ohio State's been playing and how Texas has been playing all year. And so I don't think, I mean, it was a fun game to watch. And like I said, that could have very easily had a different outcome, but obviously Ohio State has proven to be the best team in the country right now. But we'll get into the predictions later. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't disgusted by any means with Texas. It's just Ohio State showed to be the better team in the end. But it was, like I said, fun game to watch.
No, it definitely was a fun game to watch, and yeah, I've had some people. Obviously, us both being in Texas, the Longhorn Nation is pretty strong. So I've had a lot of people approach me, and they're like, like how do you feel, after now what's Texas going to look like, and like we'll get more into the offseason talk as we progress to the offseason and get through this national championship game, but it was kind of like how I told you. I think Texas is going to be in good hands with Arch Manning.
Yeah.
And I think he definitely adds a portion that this specific Texas offense could have used, especially around the red zone.
And that was the thing that I was really shocked by it at the 1 yard line, that they didn't put Arch Manning and just stuff it up the middle for four, if they needed the 4 downs. 4 downs with it. I'm sure with that O-line and Arch Manning, who they've seemingly trusted in the red zone in the past and has had success, and they just didn't go there. And I don't know if that's Sark's loyalty to Ewers, trying to get him, that defining moment to showcase himself. But I was surprised that they didn't go to Arch for that reason.
Yeah, I mean, and whenever we get into the play call, the one that everybody wants to talk about. Obviously, the fourth down play where Jack Sawyer blew it up is more of a testament to his play than it is to a testament against the play call or whatever the case. I mean, you kind of almost got to put the ball up at that point. But I mean, man, I think Ohio State just played that really well.
Yeah.
And granted, it's a play that you've seen it all the time where they'll do it. Everybody's expecting a punch up the middle. You do a little kick out, and then that guy just walks right in because there's nobody out there as a contained man. The whole edge collapses.
Well, I was just going to say, I don't want to take anything away from Ohio State's defense, because they've been on a generational run holding teams to virtually 0 points in the red zone. So props to them as well. I guess maybe they were the defense that was kind of expecting that exact play, and for that, props to them.
Yeah, no, I think it. I mean, if you think about a tendency breaker, I mean, it's kind of. I think that's what Sark was going for. It's like, oh, they expect us to just hit them right up the middle, but rarely. I mean, how many goal line situations right there at the 1-2 yard line at first and goal have you seen teams? I mean, 4 times in a row just hit it up the middle. I mean, rarely it happens. Usually you'll maybe see it. Yeah, you'll see it on first down, and then second. If they don't get it on first down, they're like, well, let's try something else on here on second down. We still got 2 downs to work with or whatever. They try to take some chances there to get the ball punched in. But
go ahead.
No, that was just kind of my point. It's like they may try to do that, and I think Jim Knowles having that Ohio State defense ready for that, and being able to play that situation really well and win the game for them right there in a goal line stand. That's testament to them.
Yeah, I mean, they played that really well. Like I said, I thought it was going to be Sark putting Arch in and basically forcing Ohio State to stop them, up the middle with that O-line. But
I like it.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm super biased. I'm an air raid guy. I always have been philosophically. So I believe, and me and my dad have talked about this before. I believe if you're inside the 5 but outside the 2, I'm throwing the ball. But that's a philosophical thing. People can disagree. I'm sure many do, but that's how I look at the game. I guess I'm more of a Mike Leach-esque guy, but no, I mean, but based on Texas's ideology and kind of the success that the little success that they had in the red zone this year has been with Arch, and so I was just a little surprised, but
well, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I think they maybe have been trying to do something, but Texas just didn't run the ball good all day. I mean, they 58 total rushing yards in the game.
Yeah. But that's the thing. They adjusted fine. I mean, they still got their running backs into the game. It was just throwing them the ball.
Yeah. Which is good. I mean, Sark's a good offensive mind. He's going to come up with some stuff to be able to get those guys opportunities.
I think that Ohio State was just a better team. And we'll go back to what we first, when we first started talking about this on this episode, is that the defining moment was the strengths and weaknesses of both teams coming down to the end there. And so, obviously Ohio State's just been, I think Michigan didn't break them. They fixed them. So
yeah. How do you feel like it's got to be so difficult to be an Ohio State fan? Well, I mean, not because you're probably looking at winning a national title here. Or at least you got a really good opportunity to do it. It's like,
I argue that it's their game to lose, but
yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll discuss it a little bit later here, but yeah, you can't beat Michigan, which I mean, there's always that debate. It's like, would you rather always beat your rival or win the national title? I'm one of those guys. I would much rather win a national title.
Yeah, I'm used to losing. Tennessee to losing to our rival Alabama. So I'm like, as much as I freaking hate Alabama, if Tennessee can win a national title, I'd be just fine with that.
Yeah, give me the L on the schedule every year, and then just take the natty. I'll take that trade every time.
Yeah.
All right, so you want to go ahead and roll on to the Penn State Notre Dame game?
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to say about this game. I'm happy, Notre Dame getting back to the national championship. It sees like they might be doing a little bit better this year in the national championship, win or lose, than they did the last time they were in a national championship, losing 42-14 or 42-7 to Alabama. But man, I will say it's cool. Like, I'm always a big fan. I was actually explaining to my girlfriend like last week about how cool it is to see I said blue bloods, but like blue blood uniforms in national championships or big time, like the playoff, like when the semifinal, but even the quarterfinal, but the semifinal was Penn State. Like, did you see that graphic with the helmets?
Yeah.
The Penn State helmet, the Golden Dome of Notre Dame, the Ohio State Buckeye with the stickers, and then Texas obviously with the Longhorn. But then, like, even in the quarterfinal, you had Georgia, and anyway, so it was just it's really cool to see that. So it's really cool to see the Notre Dame's golden helmet and then the Ohio State Buckeye helmet. It's going to be a fun uniform matchup. I'm very big on that, but so I got sidetracked there. But
Yeah.
well, I'll let you open it up with the Penn State Notre Dame game, and I'll kind of feed off what you say.
Yeah, no, this was this was kind of a really back and forth game. Penn State
Probably the best, arguably the best game of the playoff.
Yeah, arguably the best game of the playoff. And I mean, if you look at the first half, you thought, first quarter, kind of a whole bunch of nothing, defensive struggle like we thought this was going to be with two teams that are, basically founded in their defense. Penn State started to open things up in the second quarter, letting Notre Dame, looked like they were squeezing the life out of them for a little bit, let Notre Dame, kick the kind of walk-off field goal going into halftime. And then Notre Dame came out in the second half, looked like a much different team, was able to, score pretty much, I think it was 14 unanswered, until Penn State finally scored back in the fourth quarter. And kind of a little back and forth battle there, till Notre Dame was actually finally able to put them away there at the end, with pretty much the walk-off field goal. But a really, really good back and forth game, just great defensive performance. Even with, 27-24, it's like, they scored a little bit, but it seemed like everything was pretty well earned. I mean, there wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it ended up being, I guess you could, for like the NFL, that would be kind of a high scoring game. But I mean, that game was a defensive game up until late.
Yeah.
And it was both teams kind of rising to the occasion of we have to score points, and both did, towards the end. So that aspect was really cool to see. But yeah, like you said, we kind of went into this game thinking it was going to be a defensive game, and it was. But there, you reminded me with that field goal. I saw a stat after the game, and I'm trying to remember what it was, but it was Notre Dame's kicker. He was like the only kicker in like the past however many years in the playoff that like it was basically a go ahead, like a walk off field goal. He's like the first one to make it. I don't know if it was this year, the last couple years, in like the playoff or something like that, because of that. And then it showed like Texas's guy missing twice against Arizona State, and then there was another one that somebody missed, and there was like an Alabama. I don't remember the stat, but it was a pretty cool stat when I read it, that he was basically the only kicker to do it and make it.
Well, if I remember correctly, he barely made it, right? Didn't it doink?
Well, it didn't doink, but so he kicked it, and it kind of went this way and then back in.
Yeah.
It looked a little sketchy, but
yeah. But hey, I mean, Notre Dame doesn't win this game without Mitch Jeter. So just shout out to him for being absolutely nails at the end of both halves. I mean, he almost got pretty much a practice one before, halftime, where he nailed the 41-yarder. Then he's got another 41-yarder to win the game for him. So, yeah, absolutely nails from Mitch Jeter. So, I mean, that's whenever you have a defensive struggle like this, I mean, you kind of do start, or two teams where you're facing, they're like, hey, the defenses is the strong points of these teams. And, you do kind of look to, it's like, okay, well, hey, special teams is probably going to have to make some plays to be able to win this game. Whether, if you can get a special teams touchdown, or, your field goal kicker gets a couple that, is just absolute nails, gives you a real good opportunity to win.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, about those defensive games. If you have games like that, like 3 points start to become. So those defensive games are like rainy games. Those 3-point getting field goals, those start becoming touchdowns. Like the 3 points start to matter, and that obviously ended up being the case here at the end. So we'll see. Hey, I hope they can do it, man.
One thing I did have watching this game. This is probably gonna take us down off topic, but I'm okay with doing it. When you're watching these two, doesn't this feel like it should be a conference game? Just with the way Notre Dame plays football, I feel like they.
Yeah, I mean, I've been always saying it. So a lot of people they want Notre Dame to join the ACC. I've always said that they're a Big Ten team.
Yeah,
that's how they played. That's how they've always played football.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they were with Brian Kelly. That's how they are with Marcus Freeman, which I'm not saying it in a bad way. People can say whatever they want about me being an SEC fan. Big Ten and the SEC are pretty much the same toughness wise, but yeah, they play Big Ten football.
Yeah. It just, they match it. They're, geography wise. Now, granted, do I expect Notre Dame to join a conference? I do not, especially with how they've, obviously seen this year
I was going to say
play
this
out.
year,
There's not
this year,
it's almost a prime example for them why they're like, hey, we don't need to. Why should we?
This year with the 12-team playoff and how the committee basically pick their the 12 teams. If I'm Notre Dame, if I'm Marcus Freeman, I'm chilling, dude. I got no conference games. All I got to do is play these teams. Have like one or two pretty good teams on our schedule.
I think they're probably going to sit in. They're going to have 3 difficult teams on their schedule. If you lose to 2 of them, you're probably still in.
Yeah,
you're at least
assuming you don't drop a Northern Illinois, which if they lose one of those, they're okay, and then they don't have a conference championship to play, so they automatically get the rest to get all your guys healthy. It's like Marcus Freeman's like, feed up, man. Like I'm good as an independent.
Yeah,
they've been for a while, but it just proves more so to be the case. Whereas, like when it was still the 14 playoff, it was kind of pressuring them into joining a conference, and now it's like, if I was Marcus Freeman, I'd be like, heck no.
So do we talk about the ghost under the bed in this game or not?
What's that? What's the ghost under the bed?
The fact that Penn State ended up going in favored by 1 point. And James Franklin lost.
So they did. But it didn't. It didn't used to. It wasn't though.
No. Whenever we predicted it, Notre Dame was favored.
Yeah. So I counted as that.
Yeah. So
game time favorite doesn't count.
Okay. So we're saying at the pre-point favorite where Notre Dame is favored by 1 point. I think it was, they put out all that stuff, before the game about Notre Dame has all their players have the flu, and you see all that.
Yeah,
and so I think that's maybe what swapped the money line a little bit there. Turned out that flu or not, Notre Dame still won the game.
I don't count them flipping it at the end there, and also it was basically a pick 'em. So, which that shows. It was basically a pick 'em. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, you look confused. I was like, "Fuck, did you lose me?"
No, we're good.
But it's just showing that how slim the margin was when we talked about it, and then it flipping at the game time. That's a pick 'em. So I'll say that Notre Dame was favored. So it still lines up with James Franklin. He wins the ones that he's favored, loses the one that he's not. But even if people were to come after me, it still would also technically be a pick 'em. So
yeah, 1 point. That's about as pick 'em as you get.
1 point and no home team. So there's no 3-point. This or that.
Yeah, so. Definitely as close to a pick 'em as you get. And then either way, James Franklin, Mr. Consistency. You can't, he's going to play right to that Vegas line, which does not bode well for Penn State next year because they got a little bit tougher of a schedule than what they had this year. But Drew Aller did announce after the game he is coming back for him. We didn't really kind of mention his performance. He went 12 for 23 in this game, 135 yards and interception. So not the greatest game from Drew Aller, but whenever you are playing a Notre Dame defense that is as good as they are, and you're kind of limited with what you're able to do. I think Penn State didn't want to put a lot of pressure on him. Granted, they only asked him to throw the ball 23 times. But Penn State ended up running the ball for 42 attempts and, getting over 204 yards, which was I didn't really expect them to be able to win the line of scrimmage battle that way against Notre Dame. But, hey, here we are.
Well, that's what scares me for Notre Dame against Ohio State.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's – because if Ohio State can run the ball well like Penn State did and basically take the pressure off Will Howard, which Will Howard seemingly with the pressure on him has been playing lights out. But – to make it that much easier for Will Howard, that would be a problem. And then obviously Ohio State's defense is going to based on track record, they're going to play as good as they have been. And if they've been playing as good as they have been, I don't know about Riley Leonard and his run game. So we'll see, but we'll get to that, I'm sure, here probably now. But I will say though, very impressed with Penn State this year. Overall, I was one of the doubters again with Penn State, and then obviously Notre Dame, but that they're in the national championship, so we'll get to that. But Penn State and Notre Dame have always been those teams that kind of get a bad rap. Obviously, as I've shown, because whenever they get to the big time games, they typically fumble, for lack of a better term, like when we saw the Penn State Ohio State game and Notre Dame historically, the recent history of them. So props to both teams, and obviously Notre Dame moving on, but Penn State, hey, showing that they can win some tough games in the playoffs.
Yeah, you want to hear a crazy stat from this game?
Let's hear it.
Penn State did not complete a single pass to a wide receiver in this game.
I did know that. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I don't even know if we mentioned it, but yeah, Notre Dame won 27-24. I think I skipped over it again.
We might have said it. I don't know. I can't remember.
But yeah, so that goes ahead and sets up our college football national championship, which is going to be tomorrow night as we're recording this on Sunday, January 19th. So it'll be Monday night at 6:30 p.m. Played in Atlanta, Georgia. It's going to be Ohio State versus Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And currently, right now, Ohio State is favored by 8.5 points.
So what's your take on Ohio State going to the national championship being favored by 8.5 points? I'm not saying it's wrong, but just what do you think?
I'm not saying I read it and it doesn't jump out to me, but I think it is. Everybody's kind of relying heavily on what we've seen Ohio State be the last couple weeks. Obviously, Texas gave them a good game. I think Notre Dame is going to be able to give them at least some sort of game. How I feel about 8.5. I think it's a.
I have a follow-up question too when you're done.
I think it's a lot. 8.5 does seem like quite a bit, especially for a national championship game, especially when you consider the type of football that Notre Dame is comfortable playing with the running game and relying on defense. But I can understand how you see 8.5 for Ohio State. If that answers your question, I can see how you get there just when you look at how these two teams have performed in the playoffs.
And I would agree with you. I would say 8.5 is probably right. I'm just saying for a national championship. Do you think? I mean, so the follow up question, and this kind of goes into what I was about to say. So say, and this is, I've said this in the past couple episodes. I don't do the hypotheticals, but this, for the sake of this specific episode, I'll bite. You say Georgia, right, pulls it off against Notre Dame, then in turn beats Penn State, and now it's Georgia, same Georgia team that we've known all season. What would the line probably be? That, like, do you think it would be more of like a 3-point favorite, or do you think it would still be at that 8.5?
I think you're looking at more like a 4.5.
Right.
Ohio State was
and that's
favored.
Again, that's and people listening could be like, well, Georgia didn't make it, so that's neither here nor there. But it's like they're looking at it like Notre Dame, them being the 7 seed, like Ohio State, how hot they are, being more than touchdown favorite. For me, in my opinion, that's a lot for a national championship, but I'm not disagreeing with it.
Yeah.
I am concerned. I am concerned for Notre Dame.
Yeah, it's like you just mentioned a little bit ago, right? When you mentioned how Penn State was able to run the football against this Notre Dame defense, if Ohio State's able to do that, I guarantee you that they're going to complete some passes to their wide receivers. All right, especially with the talent that they have in the skill positions. If they're able to run the football like that on you, they're going to make you pay pretty big, and Ohio State can maybe start scoring in a hurry here. So Notre Dame is definitely going to have to play a lot better against the run if they want a chance of beating Ohio State here. They're going to need to be able to limit Ohio State's opportunities. They're going to basically pretty much the Michigan is the template. How Michigan beat Ohio State is how Notre Dame needs to beat Ohio State. You need to slow them down.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. But no, I mean, that's what a lot of people let me say this. What a lot of people have saying, and what I am not necessarily saying, but I did see certain things. So a lot of people are saying that the real national championship was Texas Ohio State. I'm not saying that, but the one thing that I was less concerned about with Texas that I am concerned about with Notre Dame and other teams, and I think this is why the Texas-Ohio State game was so close and why people think that, was because Texas was the only team that had the secondary talented enough to keep up with Ohio State's receivers for the most part, and with Will Howard being as hot as he was or is in the playoffs. Texas, which this is no secret to anybody that isn't casual about college football. If they're an avid watcher and listener of college football, Texas's secondary has been very, 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 very talented and very, very good this year, all season. And that was one thing that was going into that semifinal game that I thought that if Texas were to win, they're going to be the only team to shut down their passing game. Didn't completely happen, but they kept it close, which nobody else did. Oregon, their weaknesses were in the secondary. Obviously, Tennessee's theirs always has been in the secondary. And you saw how those games happen. And so going into that Texas game, I was like, well, Texas could probably do it because they can compete in the pass game defensively. Notre Dame has a couple dudes, so we'll see if they can. But the problem is, like I said, is Penn State being able to run the ball and Ohio State's run game. It reminds me, Ohio State offense reminds me of the Bills, Buffalo Bills, this year specifically, with Josh Allen being able to throw the ball and the run game actually being, really good actually this year compared to previous years. And so it's like, you prepare for both and you try to do your best, but I just see more mismatches on the Notre Dame side than I do the Ohio State side for Ohio State. So if they can stop the run, I think that'll take a big aspect out of it. But then it'll come down to slowing Will Howard down.
Yeah,
and Jeremiah Smith.
I've seen some things floated around, or at least talked about on different podcasts. So they brought up the point of, this Ohio State team possibly being the last super team that we see with the all the different changes and diversity and pretty much the leveling of the playing field that's come in college football. I wanted to get your take on that. Do you think this Ohio State team is a super team? And then follow-up question, do you think this might be the last iteration of super teams that we see, like the Georgias or the Alabamas or, the kind of team, the 2019 LSU, teams like that, teams kind of that nature?
I mean, they're the most expensive team, obviously. I wouldn't compare this team to 2019 LSU or 2020 Alabama or those ones. I think those have been gone since the NIL and the transfer portal has really skyrocketed in the past couple of years. I don't think we've seen one like that. I just think Ohio State has kind of put it all together at the right time, including Ryan Day, kind of figuring out his thing. But I wouldn't compare them to those. They're 10-2. They lost to Michigan and who else they freaking lose to? Ohio State,
Michigan, and Oregon.
Oregon, that's right. Yeah. Well, so other than the Michigan game, it was a good resume. But everyone thought Oregon was the super team, and they seemingly were in the regular season, and then they got trounced by Ohio State. So, to answer your question, to say if they are one, I would say that they're the last, but I don't think they are one. I don't think anybody is. I don't think anybody will be.
So you're saying the super teams have already been dead?
Yeah, I think the last one was 2019 LSU or 2020 Alabama.
Yeah,
maybe 2021 Georgia.
Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, or 2022. The one that they won back to back, they beat TCU 65-7.
Yeah, that one.
22, I think. 22.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. I like your point on that because, people were saying they're like, well, it's, they got all these kind of super seniors and stuff like that. And man, I think Ryan Day, he has a really good combination. I think he finally got his coordinators right. I mean, you look at who Ryan Day has coordinating for him. I mean, his offensive coordinator is Chip Kelly, right? One of the one of the
Best
greatest,
offensive minds, yeah.
yeah, in college football. It has been, since the turn of the century, right? And then you got Jim Knowles on defense, who's, I mean, obviously done a great job, even after he was, I think he was relieved of his duties over at Indiana, then went and started defensive coordinator. He's done great everywhere he's been as a defensive coordinator. Fingers crossed, OU fans, we shall see. There's some rumor mill there. We'll leave that alone. But yeah, Jim Knowles done great. I think Ryan Day leading, kind of orchestrating that whole deal, has been able to basically coach this team to a good point here. They do have a lot of seniors on this team, so they're not going to be returning a lot of production, especially on the defensive side of the ball. A lot of their talent on offense, some of it is younger. So Chip Kelly will still have some pieces to come next year. But like I said, I'm trying to fast forward. In my mind as a fan, I've already switched to the offseason. So, I'm trying to talk about that. But, yeah, I get it. Whenever it relates to this specific game here against Notre Dame, I think Ohio State is going to be too complete of a team for Notre Dame to be able to match up against them. I think Ohio State is really good on defense. I think they're really good in the skill position. I think they can run the football. And I just don't know if I can say the same with Notre Dame. I think some of Ohio State's strengths match up with Notre Dame's weakness, especially like in the secondary or against Notre Dame's secondary, or against, I don't think Notre Dame's going to be able to have the wide receiver threats that it's going to be able to stress this Ohio State defense. So I look for Ohio State's defensive line to try to get after Riley Leonard. I think he's probably going to have to play. He'll probably end up playing some hero ball. Obviously, he's a very seasoned quarterback.
He's going to have to.
Yeah, I can tell you he is going to leave it all on the line in this game. So you're probably going to see him take some pretty nasty hits.
Oh yeah, he's not sliding.
No, he's not sliding here. This is going to be all or nothing for him. But yeah, I mean it's going to be. Let's go and get into predictions. Do you have a score prediction for this game?
Score prediction, no. But I was going to say if we're getting into predictions, I can. So I obviously we've kind of already said it without saying it. But we both are taking Ohio State, right?
Yeah, we're both going Ohio State.
Which is, I mean, I'm sure most people are with how they've been playing, and Notre Dame has obviously gotten to the national championship, but close game. Which Penn State's a good team, not taking anything away from Notre Dame, but it's just like if you have two eyeballs or even one eyeball. Or even no eyeballs, but you have ears and you listen to the games. You know that Ohio State, with how they've been playing in the football or the playoff, versus anybody else that would have made it to the national championship, right? So we're going with Ohio State, but keys to win the game, if Notre Dame were to win, is they're going to have to be able to run the ball, which is duh, right? That's how they've won most of their games. But Riley Leonard is going to have to play hero ball, and it's going to have to be successful hero ball. In turn, you got to keep Ohio State's offense off the field. Long, sustained drives. If you get into third down, it's got to be 3rd and 5 or less, 3rd and short. Don't want to get into 3rd and longs. I trust Riley Leonard to throw the ball. He's not a Navy or Army or Air Force quarterback, but he's still a better runner. Which is what they've found success with this season and what we said that they would find success with. But yeah, like 10-minute, anywhere from 6-minute to 10-minute drives, anywhere in that ballpark, keeping Ohio State. It's going to, if Notre Dame wins this game, it's going to be low scoring. And that's going to be very, very difficult to do, keep Ohio State in a low scoring matchup in the playoffs. They've been averaging, I believe I saw some earlier, 37 points per game in the playoffs, and it was like 29 points, 29 point something points a game in the regular season. So it's going to be tough to do. But if they can do it, if their defense can make just a few stops and then their offense can keep Ohio State's offense off the field, there's a chance. But I can also very easily see this one getting out of hand. So I'm taking Ohio State. I don't have a score prediction because I don't know if this is going to be like a easy 28-14 for Ohio State or like a 35-14 or a 24-14,
Seems like you're thinking Notre Dame's putting up 14 though. That's what.
Well, I mean, if they win, it'll probably be like 20-17, or 21-17 or 14-13. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think when you compare these two teams of who they faced in the playoffs, I mean, getting to this point, right? Obviously, this is something that's great about the 12-team playoff. Notre Dame's a 5 seed going in. I think Ohio State was a 6 seed going in. So it's like, when they expanded, it's like you have these two teams that wouldn't have been in there with the 14 playoff. Obviously, playing for a national title here.
Well, the seeds, I think their ranking was like 5 and 6, but their seeds are 7 and 8.
Okay, yeah. The rankings are 5 and 6, yeah. Or, yeah, whatever. Yeah, but even then, so you look at Notre Dame, it's like they played Indiana, which Indiana they just well coached, just don't have quite the talent to be able to match up against some of these bigger schools.
It was like James Madison's roster from last year versus Notre Dame. I mean,
yeah, which shout out JMU after that great initial season.
100%.
Then you got Carson Beckless. You know what I meant? Without Carson Beck, Georgia. Gunnar Stockton making his first start there for him. Ended up beating them, and then they play Penn State. Thankfully, they went to the game favored, or at least leading up to the game they were favored. So James Franklin just went in coaching that he didn't have a shot there.
Yeah. Well, because I have the last episode's notes pulled up, so I know that they weren't favored because I put Notre Dame's favorite, so James Franklin's going to lose.
Yeah, I think I had texted you whenever I checked it, like right before the game, and I'm like, "Oh crap!" Penn State ended up taking.
They might have a chance.
They might have a chance. They ended up favored. It's like no, still no.
It's too late. The deed's already done.
Yeah, James Franklin. He didn't have time to check that before the game. He's like, "Oh wait, hang on, we're supposed to win, boys."
Yeah, and then he lost. And he looked at the line. After the game, he's like, "I should have looked at it."
Yeah, should have looked. But yeah, I think Notre Dame. They made I think Marcus Freeman's got them in a good place to compete here on out. But I think this Ohio State team is probably going to be too much, led by a bunch of seniors, led by Will Howard. I think they're going to probably score too many points for Notre Dame to be able to match them and score that many points against what is the number one defense in the country.
That's what I think my difference maker is that the points are just going to be there. And basically, it's basically in short what I was saying was that Notre Dame needs to keep them from scoring points, and I just based on how it sound like a broken record, but based on how Ohio State has been playing in the playoff, I don't know how they're going to do it.
Yeah,
well, I said how I think they can do it, but I just don't know if they're going to do that.
Well, I also look at it from this point of view. I'm like, what would be a good day for the Notre Dame defense? Like, if you limited Ohio State to kept them under 30, that's a really potent offense that you just kept under 30. That's probably a good day. However, whenever I look at the other side of the ball, I'm like, I don't see Notre Dame being able to score, that many on Ohio State. I'd have trouble seeing them being able to score over 20.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we both got to go with Ohio State there. Obviously, is there anything else you got left on the national championship, or are we both just ready to get this one under our belts and then we can roll on to the offseason and start talking some hypotheticals and start hyping up teams for the 2025 season?
Yeah, nothing else on the national championship. I said keys to win for Notre Dame. Obviously, Ohio State's keys to win are doing what they've been doing.
Yeah, keep it rolling. Will Howard, no turnovers. Play clean. Get the ball to your playmakers, and the plays should be there to be made against a Notre Dame secondary.
And get to the quarterback on defense, which they've been doing. So yeah, just keep doing what you're doing, Ohio State, and you'll be just fine. That's why I said earlier in the episode, it's their game to lose, in my opinion. So
yeah, I agree with you there. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's episode. Obviously, we're not doing any dubs and duds this week, just with the lack of action that's actually happening with college football.
I made the joke earlier to him before we went on air that my dub was Ohio State and Notre Dame, and my dud is Penn State and Texas. So there's mine.
There we go. All right. So, after that, next week's episode, we'll recap the national championship. And then I believe you want to look at, well, obviously they do the AP ranking after the last college football game is played. We can do that compared to our preseason rankings, see how we turned out for the season, and then we'll go over probably our record prediction, and then we'll catch y'all up on any big transfer portal news or coaching change news that has happened. Obviously, since bowls or the regular season ended and bowl season started till now. So we'll update y'all on all that. And man, we will catch y'all next week. We want to thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening and being with us as we got through our first season pretty much here. So we're looking forward to grow, and we're looking forward to an exciting offseason with y'all. Until next week, we'll catch y'all. Peace.